Have you ever caught a big fish and thought
That could be the biggest fish in the lake.
or set a new personal best with a legitimate lunker?
Like by pounds and pounds bigger than what I've ever caught.
That's a big fish.
Well, that is a special moment indeed. And you're going to want to take a picture. In fact, take lots of pictures. But if you want to transform that memory into something so cool, it's cold,
Feels like a brisk minus 43 degrees outside.
it'll make sense in a minute. Pull up a pail as I show you how I took under the ice over the top.
Caught him on the old jaw jacker here. Twing! It was so cool. You could see him swimming underneath there. I'm like, oh my God, I gotta get him.
It almost did not fit up the hole.
Yowzers.
That's insane. That's so big.
Anybody know a good fish taxidermist?
That thing's going on a wall.
So I love taxidermy art, period. And when it comes to fish, I totally understand the appeal of a skin mount. Being able to say, that's the original head and skin and fins and scales and tail right there on the wall. That's the fish that I caught. That's pretty cool. But the reality is, here in Alberta, our taxidermists are generally a little more proficient with white-tailed deer than rainbow trout. So I decided to go with a replica. And while I understand that the fish behind me is little more than plaster and paint, if you find the right artist, take accurate length and girth measurements and lots of pictures, they will make for you a fish that 99% resembles the one that you caught and will last for decades. And you get to eat the original fish. By the way, if you catch a big fish and are on the fence between replica and skin mount, but leaning towards the latter, my advice would be to get that fish to the taxidermist as quickly as possible. Because if you put it in the freezer, time will eventually make your decision for you. This rainbow came in a few ounces under 10 pounds, and it took me 48 years to catch them. And I'm pretty sure I'm never gonna catch a bigger one, so I really wanted to do something special with it. And the spot that I selected here in my basement is at the end of the hallway. It's in a little alcove, so it provides a little bit of protection because it's inset and is still visible from people hanging out in the cave. And I went ahead and made a cardboard cutout to kind of put some ideas together. I wanted a piece of driftwood, I wanted a sandy shoal jutting out of the wall. So I enlisted the help of my good buddy Kurt at Silver Willow Taxidermy, and this guy is an absolute wizard when it comes to building natural habitat. In fact, he mounted my son's first bear, and he built this rock outcropping underneath its front feet that looks absolutely amazing. So I said, Kurt, I've got this piece of driftwood and this plywood skeleton. Can you build me a sandy, weedy drop-off? And I think he absolutely nailed it. As I stood there looking at the area I was gonna place it, I looked up and I saw the ceiling and the pot light, and then this idea just came to me. And at that point, I knew I had to figure out a way to make something that looked like a slab of ice with the hole cut out in the same spot as the pot light would shine down. Building the ice turned out to be the most challenging part of this project. And like so many aspects of the project thus far, if you have a vision and you want to bring it to reality, you have to know the right people. And the right people for making an epoxy sheet of ice turned out to be my good buddy Quentin, who's very experienced with this stuff. And in his words, epoxy is not hard to use, but there are a few key rules that you need to understand and get right. And did I get them all right? No. But here's a list of tips that I learned while building the form, building the hole, and making that vision a reality. So we've got part A and B mixed. We've got $300 worth of epoxy in this pail. Now we add the pigment to make it look a little bit like natural ice.
Little goes a long way, so this is going to be very gentle. We wanted it lighter than this, correct?
A little lighter wouldn't
I kind of like that.
All right, I got my buddy Quentin, the epoxy guru, here to help me with the final install. So we're gonna tackle this thing, get it downstairs and stick it up in the roof, and hopefully if all measurements are correct and the light lines up with the hole, be able to show you a completed rainbow trout ice fishing mount very soon.
It's too heavy. Almost there. Almost there.
The final touch, or the cherry on top of this project, was to get that hook built into the seam coming out of the hole in the ice. Now this is the hook that I actually caught this fish with, just a little gray minnow jig, and I thought it was rather clever actually. I put a couple springs on the top side of the plywood between the ceiling and the epoxy, and it gives it a little bit of stretch. The problem I found was that when I went to insert it into the fish's mouth, the ceramic glaze that they use was too hard and the hook kept sliding out of the mouth, so I had to improvise a little bit. So I grabbed an earplug and cut it in half, glued it in there, and makes it look like a little marshmallow, which is, by the way, pretty good bait for trout. Anyway, it turned out pretty cool.